Hello everybody, welcome to WASBE Worldwide Wind video series number 18. My name is Joop, Boerstoel, board member of WASBE since 2015. Today I will introduce you to 3 Belgian composers from 3 generations, Jan van der Roost, Kevin Houben and Nick van Elsen. Hope you will like this interesting discussion with a lot of materials. Bye bye.
Welcome, my guests from Belgium. Please tell something about your own musical history or career, or both in short, in brief. And I will start with Jan, because Jan is the senior in our group.
That's correct. My name is Jan van der Roost. I'm from Belgium indeed. I'm 65 and I'm pretty active, have been pretty active and still am pretty active as a composer and conductor and teacher. So I started at a very young age composing simple things for local wind band where I played, and this has developed until what I'm now, so a very prolific and a very versatile composer, writing for all kinds of ensembles, vocal music, instrumental music, etc. But of course I'm specifically known for my works for wind orchestra, bands, etc.
Thank you. Jan, yes, I think many people from our listeners and visitors will know you and especially your music. Kevin, please, may I ask this same question to you?
Hi and welcome everybody. I'm Kevin Houben. I'm 44 years old and started studying piano when I was 4 years old and trumpet when I was 8 years old. I obtained a master degree for trumpet with Léon Petré and Hafabra, and orchestral conducting with Edmond Saveniers, and of course and composition and orchestration with Jan van der Roost at the Lambs Institute in Leuven. I won also a few international awards for my compositions, such as Arcana. I won the Comines Warrenton in 2003, and also 2 final places, Arcana and Tijmen, at the European Brass Band Association competitions. And also the last was from WASBE in 2019 with Lux Futura. I'm now also a teacher of orchestration and instrumentation in Belgium, in Lucas School of Arts, where I'm the follow-up of Jan. And since this year, I also started teaching the educational masters in conducting at the Conservatorium in Antwerp. And I'm also a conductor of the Royal Wind Band of Peer.
I started my musical career, to say, in the Arts Academy of North Limburg, with lessons in flugelhorn and music theory. Afterwards, I went to the Royal Conservatoire of Antwerp to study composition with Wim Hendricks and Ruud van Hoven. And after that, after my musical education, I went to the University of Antwerp to study cultural management. So I'm, besides being a composer and flugelhorn player, I'm also kind of cultural manager.
I love writing for symphony orchestras. I have also written one symphony. It was premiered, I think, in 2017 with the National Orchestra in Belgium with Dirk Brosset. And I'm also the orchestrator of the symphonical moment at the biggest dance event in the world, Tomorrowland, which we are starting now for next summer with 9 concerts. So I like that also very much. We also use an extra additional layer. So we play above electronic sounds, so that we are a lot of experimenting with now. But I also like to write for chamber music or for smaller ensembles, even for children. I've now a few pieces for cello, because my children play the cello, but they are quite young. But it's really nice to hear them trying to play in D major and C major, because that are the main scales on the cello to start with. But I have also composed a piece for 8 trombones, for 8 professional trombones, and it was a test piece for the International Trombone Association, I think 3 or 4 years ago in the USA. So it's quite fun to write for different kind of things. I think I have the same philosophy as Jan. We write music, we don't think about wind bands only or fanfare. We write music, and we want to share the music with everybody who wants to play it.
So about 50% of my opus list is for wind orchestras and brass bands, etc. So for bands, so to say, in general. But the other 50% is for anything else you can imagine, for strings, chamber orchestra, symphony orchestra, choir, soloist, guitar, recorders, name it, and I wrote for it, so to say. I never used electronic instruments, unless some keyboard things, etc. And I never wrote in a jazzy style, but furthermore, I've done everything from neo-Renaissance style up to contemporary music and all kinds of things you can imagine. So my palette, so to say, is quite broad. And I'm 50% band composer, 50% universal composer. So I have no specific wishes. I just want to go on like that for hopefully many years.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so you are really composer for music, and when music is one of the aspects on the scope. And Nick, what about you? Because it's interesting to hear what the youngest has done already so far. So please, Nick.
Yeah, unlike Jan and Kevin, I didn't wrote that much already. So I do have specific wishes. One of them is to sometime in my life write something for a symphonic orchestra, and something I really wish to do is like write a very good piece for championship brass band. which I did not yet accomplish. I'm thinking of it, but it's not that easy. So I wrote different works for like wind orchestras, brass band, and fanfare bands, and also one crazy piece for solo baritone saxophone. So if you want to show one musical excerpt, maybe that's something interesting. And my two most recent works, one of it is a test piece for the Flemish Open Fanfare Band Championship, which was planned for 2020, but then COVID happened, so I'm still waiting. Normally it should be in 2022, in March, I think. So I did something, but of course not that much.
What interests me, Nick, are you composing through the computer only, or also by pencil or something like that? It's what is your way of working?
Well, it depends on the kind of piece. If I like for the piece I'm thinking of to write for brass band, I'm really starting at the paper and the piano. But sometimes I do start just at the computer. I don't have a fixed system for that. It's just like whatever comes into my mind. And because today you can do like a lot with the computer. You put something in Sibelius, for instance, and you immediately hears what an orchestra could sound like. So I don't have that on the piano, but I think it's important to stay with the pencil and the paper and the piano to really think about your writing, which on the computer is, for me, more difficult.
Yeah, to take time for creativity, inspiration. Yeah. And Jan, how is it in your situation?
It's very easy to answer. I never use the computer for composing, and I'm a very bad pianist, so that's my answer. I do everything as I did it all my life, and the computer matters are taken care of by the publisher, so I'm a hand-written composer.
But that is also interesting too, and that worked very well. I mean, that's
so far I'm happy with it. So
please keep on with this work if it is it feels right. And Kevin, what about you?
I also just I play a lot the piano, and if I like something, I write it down. Really simple. So on the piano, not with my computer. I only use Finale. I use the program Finale, and I start working with the computer when I'm happy with my musical melodies and cells and my musical material, and then I start only orchestrating with the computer.
Yes, a piece that's very known. I don't dare to say something like that, but I'm still waiting on a piece that I really hoped to be my breakthrough. It's the set work for the Flemish Open Championship, but it didn't happen yet. Maybe I am a little bit known for my piece I wrote for the World Music Contest in 2017. I did a thing with a fanfare band all over the concert hall, around the audience, and use clay pots for the percussion and really weird things. Yeah, but a breakthrough piece, maybe not yet, but I hope it will come soon, maybe with a piece for the Flemish Open Championship.
But I can tell you, I was in the audience that concert you were talking about in
Voilà.
Kerkrade, and it was really impressive. It was really something special for them because, of course, in that time we had already little bandas or something like marching in and out and other specific things. But in this case, it was a special subject, a special commission, etc. And it was really interesting to see how the band was completely, as a square around the audience with the conductor in the middle. So I think this piece, perhaps you don't connect it to your name, but this makes a lot of impact for the people who were there.
I have two. First of all, it's Arcana. It's the composition where I won two major composition awards with, and it was my first composition that I wrote in the class of Jan van der Rost. So every week I had to make something magical happen and compose another 8 or 10 measures with a lot of pain and troubles, and then he demolished it in 2 minutes, and then I can start now. No, he's a really positive teacher, of course, but it was really for me new, because to have somebody who is much more developed in everything and give you good advice and examples, and know if you want to make it really bright, then you have to orchestrate it like this or like that. And that was really important for me, and also that it worked. I use it for my own conductor exam too. And then the second piece is, of course, my Lost Labyrinth. It was the first big grade 6 composition I had, or commission I had. I think from that time I was not. I was a bit more famous as before.
I think the two pieces which really meant a breakthrough for me were Spartacus in a more complicated, difficult segment of the band world, and a way easier one and more popular is Rikodim, so the Israeli dances, which actually was a kind of occasional work written for a summer course, but it immediately had a big success, and the wind orchestra version became famous, and now it exists in like 20-25 different versions, but the wind band version still is one of the most often played. So I think those two pieces really marked my the beginning of my career, and since then, yeah, things went better and better all the time. So that's certainly those two are the most important starting pieces, so to say.
Yes, I remember it's personal, of course, a personal touch. But then I was a young student, and we got the first recording of a new brand in the Netherlands. It was called the Haske, and one of the first compositions were from Jan van der Rost. nobody knows who it was, but it was. I remember listening to the record. I thought, whoa, this is completely new.
Well, in my case, it's really, really hard because I write so many different kinds of music, as I said, from almost Renaissance music up to contemporary things, and the wide diversity also in styles and genres is too vast, I think, to really find a typical thing for me. But I also go here for the second half of your question. Which one would you like to point attention to? In that case, I would take a fragment from my Sinfonietta for wind orchestra, written for a Japanese professional wind orchestra 20 years ago, I think, premiered at the time by Hans Friese, and afterwards being recorded and played many, many times. So, and that's one of the pieces where I could go freely, so to say. Mostly when you get a commission for amateur bands or for whichever ensemble, you have quite a lot of limits and you have your restrictions. You cannot do that, but there, or you can go further than this, etc. But for a professional band of that level, you could actually write anything, and I didn't make it extra difficult because of that. But anyway, I didn't have to limit myself, and therefore I would like to give this as an example.
it's a difficult question, maybe because I didn't write that much already. There are specific things maybe that I would recognize as some kind of typical for me as a composer. Like for instance, the pieces I wrote the last couple of years are quite. I find it important to have like melodies. I only write music that I like myself. I'm not writing music that I myself don't like to hear or maybe don't like to play. That's something else. But and unless it's really how to say an opdracht commission. A commission for someone like the baritone saxophone piece. It was a commission to do something out of the box. So it was out of the box. So a distinct signature I don't dare to say yet, but what is typical for my music maybe is that I like the music I write. I try to like the music I write.
Kevin, can you have some personal signatures or not?
Of course, interesting question, I think, because it's you want to be yourself, and also your music has to be a bit like who you are. But I want to point out Where Angels Fly, because I'm also a really big fan of Dmitri Shostakovich, and he also uses his own signature in his music, especially in the chamber music version 110A. It's one of my favorites that I think it's 300 times or something like that. He uses the D, E flat, C, B motive. That's his name. So I did the same with my own name, Houben. So I used the B flat, and then the E, of course. And if you notate it, you can point out every letter to a note. So the N is also a G. So that's my signature. And the beginning of Where Angels Fly, it's written for the European Brass Band Association when it was organized in Ostend, in Belgium. And the beginning is like the 110A with the counterpoint, really dark melody, and it's quite a fuga. It starts with a fuga, not the strict fuga, but the idea is a fuga, and I only use my name, and I think it's an ode also to Dmitri Shostakovich, because I like to compose with cells. So that's what I try to do every time again, and don't use too much different material, but how I was educated in the lessons with Jan, use small excerpts and great motives and great melodies, and then you have already too much material for 16 minutes or something. So that's how I try to compose.
your opinion, is there enough attention for education or training for new wind music composers? I don't know, Kevin, do you have any? You're teaching now, so you're close to it. Also teaching composition.
Yes, I have a few private students also, and also in Academy of Music, I have a few composition students. But I find it really hard to teach them how to compose. It's not so hard to teach somebody how to orchestrate, but to compose is a different kind of thing. So I try to analyze a lot of music with them and try to show techniques. So which we talked about, Shostakovich technique, using cells and so on. So that's quite special to try. Have young composers to educate and to try to lift them up and try to use more different scales or more special chords than only in B flat or in F major, or just to put it on a higher level. So I think the trick is to listen to a lot of music, of course, and study the scores a lot. And if you compose something, try to find a band who will play it on a rehearsal or something, and that's how you learn to become a good composer, I think.
And of course, I think, Nick, you're in this stadium. You're what you told me in the beginning. You told us you're just in the beginning, but perhaps you have also some feeling about the future, because it's also your future, of course, as a composer.
The future, I think it's becoming, for young composers, the fact that everything is possible is also a threat, maybe, because everyone who wants to compose can compose today using Sibelius or Finale and using sample libraries, which allows you to have a full Hollywood orchestra just on your hard disk, somehow it's a good thing, maybe, because everyone gets the opportunity to try to express themselves in a musical way.
And Jan, as a senior, as I told you, you have seen a lot of these things through your career. What is your opinion about this?
Well, I think it's difficult to say, of course, who is a composer and who is somebody who tries to write notes on a paper. It's not always hard to make a difference, of course. And in history, we've seen during the century that many really famous guys during their life have been forgotten afterwards, and vice versa, people who were almost unknown and became world famous afterwards. So I think for me personally, the only criterion is to try to write something which has good quality, whether it's simple music or complicated music, contemporary or not, whatever it is. I think if it's good, it should normally have a chance to survive. If it's not good enough, okay, it will disappear, or maybe even not, because some people like bad music. Everything is very relative. What is bad, what is good? So I can't give the answer. But in general, I think, and that's what you also see with the classical composers, who most of them died already. You see that the best pieces, the good composers, they always will remain. And a lot of maybe less good works or less, I don't know how to say it, but less appealing works maybe disappear. And all the famous names in music history have like 10 or 15 or 20, or I don't know how many pieces which are still played, and the rest is almost forgotten. So it's going to be the destiny of all of us, I think, and that's the way it is. So I think try to do your best, and hopefully something will remain. That's a little bit my credo. And if you see in general, that's what I said in the very beginning, writing notes on paper and finding a melody with some harmonies, that's not yet composing. Composing has so much more to give a musical contents, the elaboration of the music, etc. And this is something which needs a lot of years of training and musical musical training and education. I can't say it differently. So let's hope many more young and a little bit less young people like the two colleagues here will emerge and write good music in the future. And then I'm very confident it all will remain and continue.
Thank you very much for all the personal words you gave to us. and the insights in your work as a composer. Hopefully, you cannot have said everything, but hopefully you can have said what was in your mind, and we can only wave to our friends, our spectators on scene. Thank you very much, and goodbye, and hope to see you soon, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you very much.